Welcome to the deep dive, where we take your curiosity and, your sources and really try to boil them down to the core insights you need and, well, need quickly.
Exactly.
You're here because you want to be informed, you appreciate those aha moments, but let's be honest, nobody really has time to get lost in endless information overload.
Right.
So for you today, we're plunging into something uh, deeply human, loneliness and the profound power of our connections with each other.
Mhm.
You shared excerpts from Together by Dr. Vivek H. Murthy, and our mission is pretty straightforward, basically to extract the key understandings about loneliness, what it is, how it affects us, society.
And maybe most importantly, how connection acts as this vital force in our lives.
Exactly.
Think of this as your shortcut to understanding a really crucial aspect of the human experience. We'll be drawing on Dr. Murthy's perspectives, informed by his time as a physician and surgeon general,
Right.
to see why connection isn't just like a pleasant add-on to life,
Mhm.
but truly a foundational piece of our well-being.
Okay, so let's unpack this. The book kicks off looking at how the COVID-19 pandemic really threw our normal way of interacting into sharp relief.
Yeah, totally. Suddenly, something so fundamental like a hug or even just being in the same room.
Became risky.
Exactly, potentially risky. And that led to this, well, widespread experience of social distancing.
What's interesting, though, is that while that time was about isolation for so many,
Mm-hmm.
it also kind of brought our interdependence right into focus, didn't it?
Absolutely. We relied so heavily on essential workers,
Yeah.
everyday people making sacrifices just to keep things running.
Yeah.
It was this stark reminder of how connected we really are, even when we couldn't be physically close.
And speaking of Dr. Murthy, his background gives a really interesting angle on this.
Right.
He wasn't always in public policy. His roots are in medicine. He talks about watching his parents in their clinic.
Seeing firsthand how they built trust with patients, right?
Exactly, and how that human connection was just so vital to the whole healing process.
Yeah, you can really see how those early experiences sort of instilled in him this deep appreciation for the human element in health.
Hmm.
He saw patients come in feeling vulnerable and often leave feeling more reassured, and that doctor-patient relationship was key. It kind of laid the groundwork.
For understanding that relationships are central to our health.
Exactly, our overall health.
And here's where it gets really personal, I think. Dr. Murthy shares his own story
Yeah, about loneliness in grade school.
and the intense shame he felt about it. It wasn't just like not having tons of friends,
No, it felt like there was something inherently wrong with him.
which brings up such a critical point about the stigma, doesn't it?
Totally. His experience really highlights how feeling lonely can feel like a personal failing, like you're unlikable or something.
And that shame just becomes another barrier, makes it even harder to reach out.
Precisely, a barrier to getting support.
So the book then dives into just how widespread this is and how impactful loneliness can actually contribute to health problems developing.
And the other way around too, right?
Mm-hmm.
Health issues can lead to more loneliness.
Right. But on a more positive note, he also saw these really inspiring examples of connection acting as a powerful healer.
Yeah, in all sorts of communities. And what's fascinating is the sheer variety he talks about.
Right.
Well, from Native American teenagers in Oklahoma using their cultural heritage, their traditions, to fight addiction in the I Am Indian program,
Wow.
to parents in New York finding strength together, supporting each other while their kids were struggling with addiction.
So it's that shared identity, that mutual understanding.
Exactly. That seems to be incredibly effective against isolation. That's a key insight here, I think.
Yeah.
Connection thrives on that shared identity and support.
He also talked about a community in Birmingham, Alabama, right? Coming together through exercise programs.
Yeah, improving their health, tackling things like obesity and chronic disease, but doing it together.
And the neighbors in Flint, Michigan, connecting over the water crisis.
Mm-hmm. Organizing to address it. It just underscores how connection can be this powerful catalyst for change, both for individuals and whole communities.
Yeah.
And if you contrast that, Dr. Murthy points out how loneliness often breeds despair, isolation.
Whereas being connected fosters optimism.
Yeah.
Even creativity.
Exactly. That feeling of belonging, it just enriches our lives, makes us more resilient when things get tough.
It does make you think about our modern culture, especially in the West, this emphasis on being a rugged individualist.
That's a really important question. Could that focus be maybe inadvertently contributing to loneliness.
How so?
Well, this narrative that we're solely responsible for our own success, it might sort of downplay our fundamental need for connection.
Right, makes it harder to admit when we're struggling and need help.
Totally. Dr. Murthy shares stories of people who look successful on the outside. Parents, a hospital exec.
Yet they're feeling profoundly lonely inside, hidden beneath that self-reliant facade. And that image he uses of lonely people feeling homeless even though they had a roof over their heads, that really hits home.
It really does. It speaks to that deeper lack, right, of feeling truly seen, understood, loved for who you are.
It kind of shifts our idea of home from just a place.
To also being about that emotional security, that belonging that comes from meaningful connections. True home is relationships as much as walls.
So what's the core message tying this together? Dr. Murthy argues that a lot of the big societal problems we face
Things like addiction, violence, even the political polarization we see everywhere.
are actually made worse by this underlying sense of disconnection.
And he really stresses that social connection isn't some, fuzzy ideal. It has real relevance for everyone.
Whether you're an office worker wanting to feel valued,
Or a CEO trying to build a connected team, parents needing support, even doctors trying to address their patients' loneliness, and maybe their own too.
connection is fundamental.
It is.
He uses that really powerful example of 9/11.
Right. And how in the immediate aftermath, there was this incredible surge of community spirit.
People just stepping up, helping each other in amazing ways.
What's fascinating there is how it revealed our innate community instincts.
Yeah.
When there's a shared purpose, a clear need, most people have this strong pull to come together, offer help. It shows this deep-seated human tendency towards connection, especially in crisis.
That's a key takeaway, isn't it? That natural inclination towards community when we face shared challenges.
Definitely. And this experience really fueled Dr. Murthy's ongoing interest in understanding loneliness.
What causes it, its effects, the stigma.
And maybe most crucially, how we can cultivate stronger connections in our own lives and, in our communities.
And he started noticing this even earlier, right? As a medical resident.
Yeah. Even while focusing on diagnoses and treatments, he began seeing the huge impact of his patients' social lives, or the lack of them on their health.
He shares that story of James.
Right, the guy who seemed to have it all after leaving his job, moving somewhere beautiful.
But he ended up deeply unhappy, isolated, and his health actually got worse.
Yeah, it just hammers home the point that material success, it doesn't guarantee fulfillment or connection.
James's story perfectly illustrates that it's not just about the number of interactions.
No, it's the quality, the depth, and how we feel about them inside that really matters for our well-being.
Which leads us to that really important distinction he makes.
Between loneliness and isolation.
Yeah. Loneliness being that subjective feeling, that internal unease.
Whereas isolation is more objective. Just physically being apart from others.
Right. So being alone doesn't automatically mean feeling lonely.
Exactly. And the flip side is true, too. You can feel incredibly lonely even in a crowd.
It's that internal sense of comfort, of connection. He revisits James's story to show how changing scenery didn't fix the underlying feeling.
Exactly.
So what does the science say about all this? Dr. Murthy brings in Dr. Julianne Holt-Lunsted's work.
Yeah, her research provides really compelling evidence for this strong link between relationships and physical health.
Her meta-analysis, that study combining lots of other studies.
Right, across a huge number of people. It really solidified the connection.
What's so interesting about her work is how it took something that seems kind of intangible, relationships.
And provided solid data showing its significant impact on everything from our behavior right down to ourselves.
Wow.
She really pushed the medical community to recognize just how profoundly social connection influences our health.
He also shares that story about Dr. Helen Stokes Lampard's approach.
Oh yeah, the patient experiencing loneliness after her husband died.
Instead of just prescribing something, she actually took the time to listen, to connect with her as a person.
That anecdote is so powerful because it really highlights the limits of a purely medical fix for well-being, doesn't it?
Totally.
Dr. Stokes Lampard prioritized the patient's emotional needs over just sticking to the standard guidelines. It showed the huge impact simple human connection can have.
And the positive reaction from her colleagues suggests a growing recognition, right?
Yeah, a recognition of this crucial element that's often missing in traditional healthcare.
It definitely seems like there's a growing awareness in medicine about this link between social, emotional, and physical health.
Absolutely. Ignoring loneliness can have serious, long-lasting health consequences.
And as Dr. Murthy points out, it's not something you can just treat with a pill.
No, it's fundamental. It's like this signal reminding us of our deep need for love, compassion, companionship.
He then shares some really moving stories of connection, like Verda.
Right, who found crucial help and friendship from Armando and Sonia after being homeless.
Their ongoing connection was key in her rebuilding her life.
Verda's story really shows the transformative power of just consistent care and connection. Armando's regular calls, Sonia and Ernest's friendship, that was the vital support she needed to start healing.
And then there's Dr. Than Neville's 3 Wishes Project in the ICU.
Focusing on what truly matters to patients near the end of life and their families.
The story of Michelle and Vincent beautifully illustrates how important compassion and just human presence are in those incredibly difficult times.
Dr. Neville's project is such a great example of shifting focus from just the medical side of death
To honoring the humanity, the individual wishes of patients and their loved ones.
Yeah. Michelle's gratitude for just having someone there with Vincent speaks volumes about compassion.
It makes you wonder about the deeper reasons, the evolutionary roots of loneliness. Dr. Bill von Hippel talks about that, right?
Yeah, the evolutionary importance of groups for survival, going way back to our early ancestors.
And developing cooperative things like throwing together when hunting.
Right. And the key thing to grasp here is how our physical and social evolution got totally intertwined.
Working together in groups created this fundamental need for connection.
Exactly. A need that stuck with us. As Dr. von Hippel puts it, if I'm not sharing knowledge and emotions, then I feel lonely.
So that need for connection is deeply rooted in our evolution. That's a core insight.
Definitely. And Dr. John Cacioppo saw loneliness as this critical signal, like hunger or thirst.
Prompting us to pay attention to our social connections, to nurture them.
Exactly. Because they're essential for us as a species. We're basically wired to feel home in a close group, sharing stories, emotions.
And strong relationships aren't just nice emotionally.
No, they have real benefits for physical health, mood, handling stress. Ultimately, they make society stronger, more resilient.
And our biology backs this up, right? With hormones and neurotransmitters.
Yeah, things like oxytocin, endorphins, dopamine, they all play a big role in promoting bonding and our sense of well-being.
Oxytocin strengthens group bonds.
Endorphins give pleasure, reduce pain, often released through touch or moving together.
Like dancing or singing.
Exactly. And dopamine motivates us to seek connection when we feel isolated. It's a really powerful biological drive.
But on the flip side, the body's response to extreme loneliness or loss can be intense, like broken heart syndrome.
Takotsubo syndrome, yeah. That extreme stress reaction, it's almost like a biochemical echo of our ancestors being separated from the tribe, facing danger alone.
It's a powerful physical sign of deep social disconnection.
It is.
It's kind of a paradox, though, isn't it? That initial pang of loneliness can push us towards connection.
But when it becomes chronic, it often leads to withdrawal, a heightened sense of threat in social situations. Dr. Stephanie Cacioppo's research showed that.
Right. The brain becomes hyper-vigilant to social threats.
Which, unfortunately, can lead to behaviors that push people away, making the isolation worse. It's a tough negative cycle.
And there's this really complex link between loneliness and mental health issues like depression, anxiety.
Michelle's experience, the one Dr. Murthy shares, really highlights how one can fuel the other.
She talked about pushing people away, fearing judgment.
Yeah, not wanting to be open about her struggles, which led to losing friends, feeling even more isolated. It's a powerful illustration.
Her realization about selective socializing and being more honest sounds key.
It's a valuable insight, definitely.
And our past experiences really shape this, don't they? Negative relationships, rejection.
They can create what Dr. Steve Cole calls a neurobiological sensitivity to threat and rejection.
And it's fascinating how our brains process emotional and physical pain so similarly.
Right. Research using things like the cyberball game, where people get excluded.
Well, even studies with Tylenol.
Yeah, they've shown this overlap. It really highlights the tangible impact of social pain.
This makes you think about cultural differences, too. How we approach connection, our expectations.
Totally. The contrast Dr. Murthy draws between that Ethiopian family in D.C. with their strong community bonds.
And the more individualistic approach, often seen in the West, is pretty stark.
That encounter really shows how deep these cultural norms run. The Ethiopian family had intentionally recreated a community network like they had back home.
A different way of navigating life's challenges. Culture really shapes our experience of connection.
Absolutely. and the story of Mrs. Beckow in the hospital, surrounded by her community.
Yeah, that emphasizes the power of those communal ties for comfort and care.
It's a powerful contrast to Dr. Faybound Alberti's insights.
About how the whole concept of loneliness, as we know it, emerged with shifts towards individualism.
Exactly. In earlier times, with more focus on community, religion, being truly isolated was less of a common idea.
Dr. Amy Rokouch suggests loneliness often happens when our actual social life doesn't match our expectations.
Expectations shaped by culture, family, media. These unspoken shoulds can really impact how we feel about our own connections.
Highlighting how norms around romance, friendship, community involvement set the bar.
And when reality falls short, we feel lonely. The Hutterite community is an interesting example. Strong support, but also strict conformity. Belonging can have conditions.
Marianne's point about sharing stories fostering deep connection in Hutterite culture.
Coupled with Brene Brown's quote, "People are hard to hate, close up." It really highlights intimacy and shared experience.
But, as Dr. Murthy notes, highly conformist cultures can also alienate people who don't fit the mold.
Right. True belonging shouldn't mean suppressing who you are.
So in our modern lives, how can we actually build stronger connections? Tom Tate's High Neighbor program in Anaheim sounds great.
It's a fantastic example. Small acts of kindness, building community, creating that social infrastructure. Almost like intentionally making those third places for people to connect.
Tate's initiative shows the ripple effect of just simple kindness, doesn't it?
Definitely. Encouraging neighbors to connect, look out for each other. It fostered safety, belonging, even brief positive interactions strengthen the social fabric.
And the Okinawan Moai tradition, these groups mixing social and financial support.
Yeah, with regular, honest sharing. It really illustrates the importance of consistent connection and mutual support over the long haul.
The Moai exemplify a culture that deeply values and prioritizes those long-term bonds.
That mix of emotional and practical support, built on regular, honest sharing, creates incredible belonging and resilience.
Then there's Maxine Chaseling's Men's Sheds in Australia.
Specifically aimed at male loneliness through shared activities, camaraderie.
Mick's story there really highlights the unexpected support that can come from initiatives like that.
The sheds offer a space for men to connect, often more comfortably maybe, through shared hobbies rather than direct talk. Mick's story shows how vital that support can be, even for loneliness they didn't consciously recognize.
And Gina sharing her vulnerable story to connect with Sandria.
Empowering her to stand up for her rights. It shows the power of empathy, shared experience, and forging bonds.
Gina's openness created trust, demonstrating how vulnerability can be a bridge, helping others feel less alone in their struggles.
Exactly.
Rachel Simmons' insights into girls' friendships, how complex they are.
And how those early dynamics can impact adult relationships, sometimes leading to loneliness later if the patterns were negative.
Her work highlights that intense emotional landscape, how relational aggression can shape future patterns.
But it's important, as Wiseman points out, that boys also need deep connections and find friendship breakups just as painful.
Yeah, gender norms influence things, but individuals vary so much. Personality, family.
Right. But the broader culture still shapes how easily we connect.
And Dr. Murthy stresses that community involvement, even with some sacrifice,
ultimately enriches our lives and protects against loneliness. Kindness, like in Tate's program, is key to bridging divides.
Okay, let's talk about modern progress. It's brought amazing things, but it seems like a double-edged sword for connection.
Totally. Advancements in transport, medicine, mostly great, right? But they can also lead to more separation from loved ones, losing social circles.
Increased mobility means families are spread out. Longer lives can mean outliving friends.
And technology, while incredibly convenient, can also cut down on face-to-face interaction. Food delivery, streaming, online shopping, remote work.
Potentially leading to disconnection even with more digital connection.
Exactly.
Amy Gallo's story really illustrates this, the management consultant who studies workplace connection but felt disconnected herself while traveling constantly.
Her story shows that even people who know about connection can struggle personally, especially in demanding jobs.
The connection she found by being vulnerable with a colleague underscores how important openness is, even for busy professionals.
It really does.
And the sheer pace of change today, the pressure to always keep up.
That can create social tension too, contribute to this modern loneliness.
That relentless pressure to adapt, compete, it can subtly undermine real connection.
Creates artificial divides, tradition versus innovation, online versus offline. It's a unique kind of modern loneliness.
So what about our online lives? Dr. Murthy was initially hopeful about social media.
Yeah, hopeful it could foster connection, but then he felt inadequate, that constant comparison with curated highlight reels.
That experience mirrors so many people's, doesn't it? Social media can connect, but the curated nature often leads to comparison and feeling less than.
And Dr. Brian Primack's research linked high social media use to increased loneliness, especially in young adults.
Parigi's findings are interesting too, that more pre-meeting info online can lead to weaker offline friendships,
Yeah, it's intriguing, like maybe we're front-loading the connection too much online.
making the in-person part less meaningful, less likely to deepen.
It suggests that maybe the unknown, the organic discovery process, is actually crucial for stronger bonds. Relying too much on online profiles might hinder authentic connection.
And then there's phubbing,
No, yeah. Ignoring people you're with for your phone.
which obviously harms face-to-face relationships.
Studies consistently show it leads to more conflict, less satisfaction. It clearly shows how tech habits can create emotional distance, even when we're physically together.
But we should acknowledge technology can also be a lifeline for isolated people.
Absolutely. Helping them find online communities, reconnect with lost friends or family.
It really seems to boil down to how we use these tools, consciously.
Exactly. The intention is key. It can detract from real-world connections, or it can facilitate deeper bonds for people who might otherwise be more isolated.
Building connection through service, through shared purpose, that seems really powerful against loneliness.
Dr. Hella Sabry, creating the Physician Moms Group, is a great example. Focusing on serving others enhanced her own well-being and connections.
Creating that supportive community for others with similar challenges brought her immense personal fulfillment and purpose.
Yeah.
The very sad story of Rajesh losing his social network after moving and dying by suicide.
It's a stark reminder of the often invisible but profound pain of loneliness and how crucial connections are.
His isolation after moving, despite professional success, just highlights the fundamental importance of belonging for mental health.
And the mention of hostility towards immigrants emphasizes how negative rhetoric can worsen isolation for vulnerable people.
There also seem to be specific challenges for certain groups, like the elderly.
Yeah, dealing with health issues, loss of loved ones, leading to more isolation.
And in rapidly modernizing countries like China and Korea, where migration leaves elders behind.
Leading to feelings of abandonment, tragically high suicide rates sometimes. It underscores the critical need for intentional support for older adults who might outlive their traditional networks.
Sophie Andrews' Silverline in the UK, that call center.
It poignantly reveals the diverse needs and patterns of loneliness among older people.
Ultimately, Dr. Murthy argues that strong connections are essential for tackling big societal challenges: climate change, inequality.
But the increasing polarization we see is a huge danger to this.
Addressing complex issues needs open dialogue, cooperation.
But retreating into echo chambers, online and off, makes finding common ground harder and harder.
He talks about how contempt, bias, they fuel this negative emotional stew of loneliness and raise our stress.
Finding common ground, building bridges is more vital than ever. John Paul Lederach's idea of authenticity.
Being willing to reach out and be real with each other.
Exactly. Honest human connection even when we fundamentally disagree.
That amazing story of Matthew Stevenson and Derek Black.
Moving away from white supremacist beliefs through genuine connection, conversation during Shabbat dinners.
It's an incredible example of pre-political association overcoming deep prejudice.
Building relationships based on shared humanity first, before tackling the politics, can foster understanding, even transformation.
Parker J. Palmer's caution about using terms like family too loosely in public gatherings is relevant too.
Right. Being mindful of inclusivity, not assuming close affiliations.
Loneliness is also deeply tied to transition and trauma. Anthony Doran's story.
Loneliness and loss of purpose after leaving the Army. How building new connections was vital for his recovery from despair. Addiction.
His struggle highlights how structured environments provide belonging and the challenge of transitioning back. Connection was key to overcoming isolation and addiction.
Richard Lopez's experience with gang life is powerful too.
The initial love being conditional, leading to deeper estrangement. Contrasting fictitious love with genuine connection.
His story shows how the need for belonging can lead down bad paths, and how true unconditional love, like with his son, is essential for healing.
Philip Lester's perspective links loneliness and violence, suggesting violence as a misguided escape from loneliness. The theme of service and kindness as antidotes keeps coming up. Gandhi's quote.
The best way to find yourself is to lose yourself in the service of others.
Dr. Steve Cole's research backs this up, right? Linking service to purpose, meaning connection.
Yeah, demonstrating that this outward focus can actually help heal the trauma of loneliness by shifting our attention. Any meaningful service helps.
And having a strong sense of purpose, especially helping others, activates the brain's seeking system.
Which can override the threat avoidance system often heightened by loneliness.
When we're engaged in something meaningful beyond ourselves, it provides relief from that internal focus of loneliness and helps us connect more positively.
Exactly.
Dr. Murthy also mentions unhealthy coping mechanisms.
Right, things like overeating, compulsive sex, overworking, attempts to mask the pain of loneliness.
They might distract temporarily, but don't fix the underlying disconnection. Dr. Brian Robinson's insights on workaholism.
His personal and professional view highlights how work can be a refuge to avoid loneliness pain, often rooted in childhood issues like parentification.
And the paradox he found that slowing down and connecting can actually increase productivity. It's counterintuitive, but powerful.
Very much so.
The importance of early social bonds, support in childhood, seems foundational. The Werner study on resilience.
Yeah, it clearly showed the protective role of strong social factors, especially bonding with caregivers in overcoming adversity.
It emphasized that while genetics matter, strong early attachments and support systems are crucial for resilience.
Noah's experience with bullying and finding perspective and connection through volunteering at the YMCA illustrates this point well.
Loneliness in school settings, especially during big transitions like college, is surprisingly common. Serena's story.
Initial loneliness, rejection, blaming herself, then finding community through the urban farm and yoga training is a powerful example of connection healing.
Her story really highlights that vulnerability during transitions and the false idea that everyone else is fine.
And it underscores how finding genuine community where you feel seen and accepted is vital for overcoming loneliness. Her space gatherings, focusing on face-to-face talk.
Gets back to basics.
Exactly. Has a key way to foster connection.
That journey towards self-awareness and compassion for ourselves and others seems so important.
Taking time for honest reflection, understanding our values, our social needs, our responses.
Recognizing cultural influences, too. Practices like loving-kindness meditation.
Jack Kornfield's work. Valuable tools for self-compassion, which is the foundation for compassion towards others.
And seeking out awe-inspiring experiences, like in nature.
Can deepen self-connection, remind us we're part of something bigger, interconnected.
Creating intentional spaces for connection, like Sarah Harmeyer's big table gatherings.
Seems so simple, but incredibly effective for fostering community among diverse neighbors.
Her approach focuses on creating a welcoming space where people feel acknowledged, valued. The Casiopo's research on reciprocity.
Mutual support, give and take, being essential for healthy connections. Sarah, encouraging listening and mutual service, puts this into practice.
Dr. Murthy's 3 circles of connection framework is helpful too.
Intimate, relational, middle, and collective, each playing a vital role against different kinds of loneliness.
This model helps us see the different levels contributing to well-being. Intimate gives trust, security.
Relational middle circle offers broader companionship, support.
And collective gives that sense of belonging to something larger.
Right.
He really emphasizes that middle circle, doesn't he? The acquaintances, casual companions.
Yeah, often underappreciated, but they provide a crucial buffer against relational loneliness.
While we focus on close ties, that middle circle of maybe 150 people provides a vital sense of social connection.
These casual friendships, easier in youth, take more intentional effort to maintain as adults.
But gatherings involving shared experiences, storytelling, laughter, singing, dancing, moving together, have a powerful therapeutic effect.
Releases endorphins, fosters bonding. Robin Dunbar's research talks about this. Singing and synchronized movement are particularly strong for bonding.
Connection in the workplace is huge too. Simple things like the inside scoop.
Where colleagues share personal updates, fosters deeper understanding. Gallup's research shows having just one good friend at work boosts engagement significantly.
Intentionally creating that culture of connection leads to more engagement, resilience, collaboration.
Baker and Cross's research on relational energy links high-quality connections to better job performance.
And interestingly, even brief, positive interactions with strangers, like on the commute,
Can have a surprising positive impact on well-being. Dr. Epley and Dr. Schroeder's research showed that.
The broader community context is crucial too. The risks of social isolation.
Klinenberg's analysis of the Chicago heat wave, a tragic illustration of how isolation can be fatal for vulnerable people.
And Dr. John Kathiapo's community contagion of loneliness.
Yeah.
How one person's isolation can ripple outwards.
These examples highlight the vulnerability of those without strong networks, especially in crisis, and how loneliness is interconnected in a community.
Though Hurricane Andrew paradoxically catalyzed connection, didn't it?
Yeah, shared adversity sometimes brings people together.
Ultimately, Dr. Murthy argues that the future of a connected, compassionate world hinges on teaching connection to kids.
Starting really young, consistent human contact is vital for babies and young children's development.
Laura Thomas's work with Beyond Differences shows how isolation feels to kids. It's linked to self-harm, violence.
It's crucial for parents to model inclusive behavior, empower kids to be caring role models.
Equipping kids with social and emotional skills, social education is as vital as academics.
Helping them navigate complex peer relationships, build healthy friendships.
Research highlights those mundane family things, talking, meals together. Knowing friends are key for social development.
And while tech's impact is nuanced, parents need to be mindful. Prioritize offline connection. Set limits. Create screen-free times. Engage with them on screens sometimes. Be open about their own struggles.
Developing emotional intelligence through programs like Ruler.
Recognizing, understanding, labeling, expressing, regulating emotions can have a huge positive impact.
Dr. Mark Brackett's personal story about bullying underscores the importance of emotional literacy.
Ruler gives kids skills to manage their emotions, navigate others, leading to better social behavior, school climate. Tanya's story illustrates this.
Creating inclusive school environments like Dennis Estemon's We Dine Together program.
Students actively reaching out to lonely peers at lunch makes a real immediate difference.
And programs like Smart and Secure Children, SSC, building skills and support for parents facing challenges are vital.
These grassroots efforts show the impact of peer connection and supporting parents for kids' healthy development.
Finally, Dr. Murthy gets really personal, his own experience feeling isolated while caring for his sick daughter.
Even though he was surrounded by people and activity, it highlights those invisible barriers to asking for help.
The reluctance to impose, the isolating power of shame.
His vulnerability really underscores that even those who understand connection can struggle. The contrast with his childhood network highlights the value of strong bonds.
He realizes that just witnessing connection isn't the same as living it.
That there's a personal journey to truly understand and practice compassion.
And he ends with that profound question about treating one another as family.
His journey of recognizing the difference between observing and cultivating connection is a key takeaway for all of us. His final question, why don't we treat everyone like family? Why can't we? It's a powerful call to action.
So the core takeaway here is really clear. Loneliness is complex, significant, with huge consequences personally and societally.
But the fundamental power of human connection offers vital, tangible solutions.
And for you, our listener, wanting knowledge and those aha moments, we really hope this deep dive into Dr. Murthy's work gave you a comprehensive overview and some truly insightful examples.
Yeah, we encourage you to maybe take some time, reflect on your own connections, think about the ways, even small ones, you can foster deeper relationships in your life, in your communities.
Drawing inspiration from these examples, acts of kindness, intentional conversations, joining groups, offering support.
Exactly.
And here's a final thought for you to chew on. Given this fundamental biological evolutionary need for connection we've explored, how can we intentionally design our modern world, our workplaces, communities, technologies?
How can we design them to truly prioritize and actually facilitate meaningful human interaction at every single level?